All right, welcome everybody around the world. Welcome to all my subscribers. So, quick little update video for everybody. I just wanted to stay in touch and continue to provide updates. I've been doing constant daily research on this and watching, everything that comes out. I see a lot of information being repeated all the time, especially by certain people and authorities on the media. There isn't really much to tell. It's still a great mystery. So far, they're telling us. So every time they talk about it, it's just them repeating, "Oh, we don't know what these mystery drones are," and blah blah blah. But what I have done is I've compiled together once again, as I've done every few days or so, all the latest updates, footage, and information. So, in conjunction with my last video, where I read out a short list of data points, factoids about the mysterious drone event, whatever you want to call it. And when you look at these things in bullet point form, very plainly stated, you can logically ascertain one or two outcome solution scenarios for what's going on here. So I'll quickly go through that list again here now. And welcome to everybody. So I, just like everybody else, would love to know what these mystery drones are. Everybody that I speak to about it, which isn't that many people, but I kind of test the waters and see what different people from different walks of life think about it in the real world. And I asked this older lady the other day, God bless her, I'm not being rude by calling her older, but, older generation, much older generation than me, no offense. And she was equally as perplexed about it. And I said, "Have you ever heard?" No, I told her, "I've never seen anything like this in my lifespan." And she's like, "Oh, well, you're much younger than me. But even in my lifespan, I've never seen anything like this happen." That's what she told me. Right. And that's just a little bit of testimony, because no matter who you talk to, everybody is confounded by this and coming up with all sorts of theories. But as my list shows, and a few more recent updates, we can see that we can rule out what it's not. And what it's not is an operation being done by the US government or by any other world government. Okay. And the possible scenario, the third possible scenario that I could get into, scenario X, is so outlandish that logically it's just implausible. And that is, although it's technically possible, that you have a group of anarchist supervillains like you would see in the movies, who have so much money, like millions or billions of dollars on their hands, and they'll get together one day and think, "Oh, let's try to take over the world like Dr. Evil," or they're trying to do their own crazy high-end military anarchist type operation. Well, that's technically not impossible. There are very wealthy people and people who think contrary to the norm. It's not impossible. When you try to combine that with the fact that none of these mystery drones have been taken down by the US government, they're not able to track them, it just becomes more and more implausible that it's some splinter extreme group operating these drones. They'd have to be very, very wealthy. These drones, as I've said before, the majority of the mystery ones are so large that if you wanted something compatible to that size, you'd be paying hundreds of thousands of dollars. And the problem is that there are hundreds of these drones flying around. Okay, so we're not just talking about, millions of dollars worth of equipment. We're talking about tens of millions plus dollars worth of equipment. And the other bizarre thing is that these drones, yes, the blatant mystery, we don't know where they're coming from, and the authorities, don't know where they're coming from, they say. All we can do is go by what they say. But nobody knows where they're coming from, where they're going. They just appear at night, fly around doing their thing mysteriously, and then mysteriously disappear somewhere. Well, if you were some multimillionaires or billionaires and you had this fleet of UFOs, and let's just pretend you spent all this money over years amassing this technology, or you were some, like Matrix version of Elon Musk, and you wanted to, pull some Dr. Evil stunt, yeah, you could technically push the boundaries and create your own technological version. Maybe it can stay up longer. Maybe it could even fly higher and stuff like that, and evade detection. And and whatever else. But it's just so ridiculously implausible. So the reasons, once again, why it's not the US government or any foreign nation, logically, the best reason is because nobody, any of these nations, nobody, not even America itself, would do a secret operation out there fully. Nothing secret has ever been done so fully openly in front of people as this event. This event is once in a lifetime. Nobody's ever seen it like this before, anything like this before. Okay, where thousands of witnesses to hundreds of these things over a period of weeks, sustained every night consistently, hundreds of video footages. Everybody can go out there and see them. You can sit on your back porch eating popcorn and witness these things. So if it was a secret operation being done by America or by any other nation, it would be the most haphazard, slack, backwards, nonsensical secret operation to ever. I mean, it defies the core definition of secrecy in, behind closed doors, under a cloak. No, let's just put some bright flashing lights on our drone craft and attract attention to them. Oh yeah, that's a secret operation. So it just makes no sense. If some foreign nation or any nation wanted to spy on something, it could be people, anything you can imagine, they would not need to put fancy lights that strobe and do different colors, okay, on top of their craft to fly around. It's not some psyop. We're not going to go down some conspiracy rabbit hole. At the end of the day, the most sensible, plausible, logical explanation is that the vast majority of these mystery drones are actually extraterrestrial. Now, extraterrestrial doesn't mean that these drones flew in from outer space. I mean, come on now, let's not be ignorant. The long story short, a lot of people for a long time have said that there are extraterrestrial races that visit the Earth either often or periodically, and various different races, and some more frequent than others over the last hundreds and thousands of years. Okay, and it's probably true. That's from like the most credible higher echelons in UFOlogy, witnesses, and this and that. There, going back the last 80 years, in 20 years of my research, that's most likely the reality. That there are numerous extraterrestrial races, like I said, that visit the Earth frequently or infrequently, and have done so for at least hundreds, but definitely at least probably thousands of years, or even more, right? But that much is ascertainable. And these beings have bases on this Earth, stations, epicenters, whatever you want to call it. Could be in the ocean, underground, within mountains, this and that there. So there's a lot of talk about those details, and a lot of talk about off the coast of America on the west and the east that there are these undersea bases. So to me, the most plausible scenario is that these extraterrestrial beings who, for whatever reason, doing scientific research of their own, maybe they're vacationing, I don't know how it works, but it's not impossible that there are other life forms out there that are more advanced and intelligent. They've probably been to this planet, mapped it out, and blah, 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 eons ago. That is not impossible. It's highly possible. And it would be quite sensible for them to set up a station here that they can come and visit if they're stopping by Earth. Or maybe there's some of them who stay stationed here and observe the flora and fauna of the planet and whatever else. We don't know. Or maybe it's like Aspen to them. They stop off in a little chalet in the ET base, and you know what I mean, and have a little, get in their jets and rent a car and just fly around the world, you know what I mean, with their sidekick androids. But realistically though, it is entirely possible that one of these races that are said to exist have a base on this planet. That's not an impossible thing, but 80% of the ocean is not mapped. So it's not like we've mapped 80% of the ocean. and we're trying to say that, oh, the undersea bases are hidden off in the final 10-20% we haven't explored. No, well, the ocean's like 80% unexplored, and the ocean floor is like 90 something percent unexplored, and we don't really know what is down there. And on top of that, if you're talking about higher technology, it could be built into the sides of the rock. It might not be visible from the outside, even if we did go down there and explore and go past it. Or it could have other forms of cloaking technology, a simple type of shield that deflects the image so you can't really see it if you're going by it in a submersible, little human submersible exploring. Simple things like that to defy our fundamental technological levels that we have now. So it's not impossible. It's not far-fetched that this could be the case. We're not talking about a massive city under the earth. At least just a little substation or base, a halfway point, something like that. There, it makes perfect sense that one of the vast array of extraterrestrial races out there have that on this earth. Okay, so but what the whistleblowers and such have said is that, yeah, that's actually true. There are such things on this earth, and there's undersea bases right off the coast of California and off the eastern coast as well. So to me, what I think is happening here is that these mystery drones, obviously I haven't interviewed all the orbs and drones, not like I was there with my eyeballs up against them looking at them, but based on everything that I've seen in the footage and everything else, I would say that the vast majority of these drones are just simple earth-based technology that was made, the craft, whatever they are, is just made to function on this earth. It's important to realize that even if you were a super advanced extraterrestrial race and you had a settlement on this earth, city, substation, something somewhere, that you're not going to sit here and build star cruisers to fly around the planet. I mean, what's the need? Building a star cruiser might cost you 10 million plutons, you know what I mean? But if you're going to build a little simplified rotating blade type craft, but a little bit more sophisticated than what the humans can do, that's going to be 10 plutons, you know what I mean? So even if they're super advanced extraterrestrials, doesn't mean that they have to fly around the planet in star cruisers all the time, or something super fancy like that. So if you did have a base on this earth, it would make perfect sense to me that if we're seeing all these mystery drones that are more advanced than the ones that most human nations' militaries profess to having, then it must, because they exist, they're out there flying around, and they're more advanced, they're not trackable, they don't emit heat signals and this and that there, they always disappear, they can't be tracked and brought down so far, right? They're impenetrable, so to speak. Okay, that means logically that they're more advanced than what the humans and the human militaries have. If they weren't more advanced, then the American government and military wouldn't have had a problem tracking them, right? Correct? Yes. So who has the superior technology? The mystery drones. So it's only logical, going by that notion, that someone or a group that is superior in their technological sense possesses these fleets of mystery drones. Who else on the planet would have technology superior to all the human nations? Well, it would be a non-human nation. There you go. So, and if one of these little substations existed on the Earth, it'd be fair to say that, like I said, instead of them spending 10 million plutons to build Star Cruiser fleet, they just go, okay, well, let's go build, like a couple hundred of these little stupid, retro flying around drones. I mean, to us, they might be 100 years in the future to what we have, but to the extraterrestrials, just like it's retro. It's like antique technology for them. And they're just like, yeah, build a bunch of them. They'll be like crackers. So it wouldn't cost anything. And they just have like a nice fleet in their under ocean base or whatever it is, and then using their technology, maybe little force fields, they fly up through the water unimpeded by the water. When they break the surface, the force field breaks, and then they just float up into the air, mystifying us like mystery drones. But to the aliens, it's like retro technology. Something like that is entirely possible. Another thing that's said is that a lot of the extraterrestrial races look very human or identical to us. It depends on which type. And some definitely look human, but just different, like a race, or, like even with totally different skin color, period, like some greenish or bluish and this and that there to each or yellowish or orangish, all different shades you can think of the rainbow, basically, almost. But that a lot of them are human looking with slight physiological variants. So it's just a great mystery to us on the bottom feeders. Maybe people in the know more, but we can only speculate where they actually originate from. Did they originate from our planet and then develop technology, and then hundreds of years ago or thousands of years ago they left the Earth for a better place? Or maybe they settled in the oceans after a meteor struck or something like that there, and they got used to living down there. Lots of interesting situations, but none of them are that impossible. It's not that impossible. There were legends of airships in the 1800s, mystery airships. Now we have mystery drones. And it's like there's another civilization out there that's present on this planet, and it's a slightly above ours technologically. Now, my own personal theory is that some of these human ET sightings that people are having, they're not technically ETs. Maybe some of them were born here after all these generations. Undoubtedly, a lot of them technically are born here on this earth, so they're Terrans, technically. But their type, their species, may have been from another star ages ago before they came here to settle on the earth in the little substation realm or whatever it is that they occupy. There could be lots of them around the world, too. So my theory is that this mystery drone technology is not from some super advanced alien civilization. It's from one of the civilizations that's got a presence on this planet. Who they are, which one they are, is pure speculation. Who knows? But out of the candidates, you have the human-based ETs, like I said. They could actually just be a bona fide Earth Terran, just different looking. They remain separate from society for thousands of years. Maybe they don't like surface radiation. Maybe something happened and they don't like the surface radiation, so they're content being where they are and they try to stay out of our way. But when you think about it, if that's true, and it's possible that that is true, it would explain the 1800s mystery airships, because that little civilization is not some super advanced alien civilization. They're from here, or they're on here, and they're just a little bit more advanced than us. So that would make perfect sense, and it would explain a lot of mysterious sightings over the last 100 or 200 years. But now we got these mystery drones, which are very similar to ours, but a little bit more advanced. You know what I mean? And we don't have some Matrix Elon Musk out there, some supervillains doing some secret operation, which, again, no matter who's doing the secret operation, it's the most unsecret secret operation, putting rainbow colored lights on all your craft, flying them around like, hey, I've got some secret craft, don't look at me. You know what I mean? It makes no sense at all. So what I think is happening is that a technologically superior civilization that has a presence on this planet, which is utilizing these vehicles that are not that much more advanced than what we have, and they're doing it as a show and a display to gather attention. Now, why would they want to gather our attention? They've had all these decades to appear and to get our attention, and it's been so sparse and frequent that people who see UFOs are regarded as crazy over the decades. It's only recently gotten a bit better because there's more UFOs prevalent, right? But if they want to start increasing their presence, it means something is going to happen. They're doing it for a reason, okay? If I was thinking about it earlier, if you go down reef fishing or whatever, right? In the reef, you have so many different types of creatures and fish and octopus and little fish and big fish and eels and little crabs and sea anemones. And there's so many types of life there. And if you had like a little submersible camera drone thing as a human scientist, before the day before you first put your submersible down there, if you were one of the little fish or creatures down there, you'd be living your life like we are on the earth, thinking this is my normal life. And then one day, some strange mystery drone type vehicle shows up in your environment, this human submersible camera, and it's floating around, but there's actually a lot of them, but let's simplify it. And this little mystery drone is, all the little fish will swim up to it like, hey, what's going on here? And that's what would happen in the reef scenario. When that little mystery drone comes down for the first time, all the little curious, brave fish will be interested, and they'll swim up to it. This is what you would see occur, right? They would swim up to it and investigate it. And that's what we see happening right now. Right now, in the same applicable context, we have something foreign, in a sense, a mystery drone from a foreign, unknown location in origin, and it's come here into our environment. And as it moves around observing us, these mystery drones, I'm saying, the human drones and helicopters and airplanes that have been deployed up there, obviously in secret, but in open, but they are obviously military, like where else are all the helicopters coming from? But anyways, obviously and thankfully, the military would, be doing the right thing like that anyways, and deploying their own craft up there, doing the right thing, keeping operations secret. I mean, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm just stating facts, right? That's what you would need to do. And all the military surveillance drone craft up there is like represented by the little fish swimming around the submersible camera, right? They're curious, and that's the start of the event. Now, if you go back to the reef scenario, why did this event occur? Because to us right now, we're like the reef fish living our reef fish life, and these drone cameras started appearing, and we're swimming up around them wondering what they are. We're still in that starting phase. What comes next is what we ask. Well, how can we discern what will logically possibly come next? Well, we look at the reef scenario. Why did that submersible go down there in the first place? That's right. It's because a higher level scientist, the human above the water, wanted to monitor and study what was down in the water. And a scientist always has a reason for doing everything. So there's a reason logically that all of these drones are deployed by this technologically superior group or race, whatever it is. And they have a valid and either scientific or emergency related, they have a valid scenario reason why they deployed their drones to start monitoring the reef, that is Earth. Okay? So they know that something is going to happen. Now, in a real life scenario, why would a scientist monitor the reef? Maybe it's the first time they went there and they just want to study the creatures. Maybe, right? But when you apply that to what's going on, that doesn't make sense. If they wanted to study the creatures, why are they coming out at night and not the daytime? Doesn't make any sense, right? If you know that some big event is coming, if some change, maybe there's going to be some destruction to the coral reef, maybe there's going to be a tidal wave or something's going to happen, an earthquake, and you want to study the fish and, monitor it for that reason. Like, if there's some event coming, that would be a reason to put the little drone down there and this and that there. So what I think is occurring is that these more advanced groups know that some big event is coming to the Earth. What it might be, we don't know for sure. There was a huge 7+ magnitude quake in wherever it was in the west side of America, California or something. I can't remember exactly, right? But that's a mega quake. Everybody got lucky with it, though. Okay? So maybe something like that is going to occur, but a lot of the drones are over New Jersey. So, but some have been spotted and videoed in California as well. So what I think is happening is we do have the majority of the mystery drones emerging on the eastern ocean side of America, but there are some on the western side of America. So when you look at it on a map and visualize in your mind, and you flare up like big bright orange flares on the US map where the majority of the drone sightings are, they're clustered around the coasts. So it's fair to say that these drones are emerging from the coast. Okay? Now, if they were just coming from one coast, that'd be one thing, but they're coming from both coasts. So I think that lends credence to the theory about these undersea bases. And again, that would just likely mean that whoever is sending out these fleets of advanced mystery drones, the mystery drones are probably coming from these off-the-coast undersea bases. That's what I would venture to guess. So they come out of the water, they only got to fly a little ways, then boom, they're right over New York and New Jersey, right? If these drones were originating from the center of America or from Canada or from South America, be a whole different layout on that map. Where you look at where they're emerging from, there you go, right? It's not rocket science. Like if you want to know where the bears live, You go into the forest and you look for bear evidence, right? When you're looking for where the drones live, right? You look at that bear evidence as well. Where do you see the bear droppings? Where do you see the animal carcasses? Where do you see the dens with all sorts of bear necessities inside? Haha, right? That's what you got to do. When you apply that to the drones, they're coming from the coasts. So they're coming from the oceans. It's not rocket science. Plus, you got videos of them actually flying into the ocean. So whether that video is real or fake, it certainly looks real, but nonetheless, a lot of people have said that they have seen them go in and out of the ocean. But even the authorities have said that they appear to emerge from the ocean. It could be not saying that they're under the water, but that they emerge from the ocean. They're tracking ocean vessels flying over Coast Guard ships and such. So I think it's definitely coming from the ocean. But the American government, it's important to understand, they did shoot down the theory and debunk the theory that it was this Iranian mothership that some U.S. politician or person had talked about. I can't remember his position anymore. And it got a lot of people thinking and coming up with conspiracies. But again, it's not a foreign nation. And even the U.S. authorities said that there is no Iranian mothership. They know it's off the coast. There's nothing out there. The thing is, they're not looking under the water. Well, they might be doing all that, but that's secret to us, right? But there's no big ships floating on top of the water. There's no submarines in the water off the coast launching these drones from some other nation. Okay. And if there was, and if they were, then they wouldn't have put those fancy lights on to attract attention and allow it to be in the media for weeks with thousands of witnesses, hundreds of videos. I mean, out the yin yang, every single day people see these things. That's not how any nation would perform a secret operation. So it is a superior force, technological force, putting on a show display to attract attention to themselves. And when you stop and think about why would they have the need to do that and why would they do that, it's because they are superior. They've been incognito. They don't want to alarm us. So they're breaking the ice, coming out, showing craft that don't look like star cruisers. And well, one or two of them did, ironically, but craft a little bit better than ours, just to get our attentions. Like, hey, what is that mystery light up there and this and that there? The only problem is that so many human drones have gone up since then, so many copters and jets and planes and actual human drones to monitor these, that right now a lot of video footage could be either or, right? But when you see the real deal UAPs, there's no denying they're UAPs. So what the big event is, I could only speculate. If I want to apply my religiosity, I would definitely say it's got to be the end of days. It cannot be a coincidence that the biblical prophecies that I've talked about for years and are in my books that are available on Amazon, there's no way that all those biblical prophecies pointed towards 2024 as being the end of days, and then these things occur, right, in 2024. I mean, I've been speaking about this since 2016 on YouTube. I published those books, Teach to Run, between 2 to 4 years ago. This was years before this mystery drone activity started. We're also told in the Bible, and I talk about it in those books, that the Bible tells us that some of the only signs that we'll get that the end of days is near is one, that Israel will be reborn. And that's how we know that Christ is nigh and at the doors. That occurred in 1948. And in this final generation afterwards is when you saw all the UFOs show up. I keep saying that. I mentioned that in the books. But the other condition was, Jesus said, you will see the stars falling to the earth. Now, stars represent messengers in the Bible. When you look at the Old and New Testament, the Tanakh and New Testament usage of the term messenger and star, you see they're correlated. They're euphemisms. Star is a euphemism for messenger, a metaphor for messenger. So when it's talking about seeing the messengers coming down to the earth, this could only be, like I'm saying, I mean, it's not rocket science here. So even from a biblical perspective, we should have been expecting to see, as I've talked about in my videos for years, that when the end of days approaches, we should expect to see either meteors falling down to the earth, which is what was symbolized as stars falling down, or the alternative is messengers falling down or descending down, coming down, arriving down to the earth. Now, right now on the planet, right, we had the big attack on Israel that started in 2023 and went throughout 2024, and it's still ongoing. That's fulfilling the last of the biblical prophecies, which is that of Ezekiel, right? So we had that. And I did all my teachings and published my book before those events occurred. I thought someone was at my door. Might be the cat trying to get in. I don't know. But anyways, I don't have to get up. But now we have these mystery drones. So according to what I've been saying for so long, that if I'm correct in all of this and the biblical prophecies do show 2024 as the end of days, what we should expect to see are messengers coming down to the earth, right? And right now with the mystery drone event, like when it started off, it was a UFO event. It wasn't about like drones. As more human drones got deployed up to go monitor these things, the skies and the cameras got littered with both types. And that has plagued and polluted the minds of those trying to discern what's going on. But when this event started, it was very mysterious, and it ran right in line with the Cliff High Webbot prediction. And he had a video which is from years ago. Well, he's been talking about it for years, since the Webbot made the prediction back in 2009 or whatever it was. Everybody's heard about the story by now, so I don't have to repeat all the details. But Cliff High had his own lecture that he did, which was like over an hour long, and I saw it being reviewed on another channel. And it was very interesting because I didn't really pay much mind to the Cliff High Webbot prediction. But undeniably, when I heard his explanation, which was made in this lecture before the mystery drones even showed up, like well in advance of that, he said that the Webbot prediction showed that in December 3rd, that mysterious drones would start showing up. And he's sitting there giving all this detail. I'm like, surely he talks about this since December 3rd-ish, right? But no, the video's from like a year ago or something. And all these details have been out for many years because they're part of the original detail prediction that the Webbot made. So he is just sitting there going through the details of what would transpire. And what he said is that it would be around December 3rd, which is 39 days after the Rogan-Trump interview, which would be a trigger event for all of this, like a first domino, to measure the distance of time from. And then on December 3rd, he said what would occur, according to the Webbot prediction, is that mysterious drones or UAPs would show up and people wouldn't be able to figure out what they are. And after a short period of time, that this would amount up to human craft going to intercept them. And it would end up, if I'm quoting it, not quoting it, but referring to it correctly, that there would be an ET war up in the skies above, and that humans would join in, if I have it the right way around. It's not a human versus ET war exclusively. I believe what it said was that it will start off as an ET versus ET war, and that humans will join in. Okay? So in what I watched out of the very long lecture, a lot of it was repeated information for some reason. They kept repeating. I don't know if it was an editing issue. It would like cycle back, and after watching for half an hour, I'd be like, I swear I heard part of this before. And then I noticed it happened like 3 times. So for now, based on what I have watched from the Cliff High lectures, I haven't seen how long it will be from December 3rd to when that stuff happens. I think, if I remember correctly, Cliff said it could be a month or a few months. We don't know for sure. But I'd have to go and watch hours of material again just to try and track down a few sentences, and that's too laborious for me to do. At the end of the day, I think it's quite possible that some event like this is probably going to be imminent. I mean, we've had, even before the mystery drones started appearing, we had a huge increase in UFO sightings around the world. Now, a lot of people don't know that in South American countries, even in Mexico and such, but in like the Southern Hemisphere, I'm not a geographer. Somebody would be like, but Mexico is not in the Southern Hemisphere. I don't care where it is, right? But anyways, all those countries below the United States, okay, on that western side of the planet, there you go. All those countries there that don't speak English, of course, have their own languages, make their own videos, and have their own sightings. But people in America and English-speaking nations don't ever watch them because they don't know what to search for, they don't know the language, and blah, 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 blah. But I do watch videos like that and channels like that. And I would say there are far more prevalent sightings of UFOs and have been for years and decades in those countries than in America. But even in America, they've been increasing in the last few years. It's undeniable. Any resource would tell you this. It's just a fact, an observable fact. It's been a huge increase, a huge number of, a lot of footage and clips out there that people are getting. Whereas when I was growing up, I'm not that old, but I've been here for a number of decades now. And when I was growing up, for the first like 20 years or more of my life, it was very rare for anybody to see a UFO. And now it's come to a point where a lot of people have seen UFOs. And quite a lot of people, thousands and even millions around the world, have recorded UFOs on camera. That used to be a very rare thing. It used to be so rare that in UFOlogy or New Age groups, even, a lot of people, I'm not saying I believe it, may be true in some cases, but not all cases, but there used to be a belief that it was so hard to ever witness, let alone video or photograph a UFO, that if you did succeed in doing that, that the UFO pilots, occupants, arranged for that to happen so that you would witness it and be able to record it with photo or video, which means that you're part of a monitoring program. That goes a little bit down the deep end, right? And I can't remember why I mentioned that right now, but nonetheless, let me shut up because I've been rambling too much. It's only been 36 minutes. That's very bizarre. It feels like I've been talking for an hour. That is really strange. Usually when I do a video, it feels like I've been talking 15 or 20 minutes, and I look up, it's been 45 or 50 something minutes. Now today, I feel like I've been talking for an hour. I look up, it's been 36 minutes. That blows my mind. But anyways, I can't remember why I started rambling about all that. It might come back to me. But anyways, I've talked enough. But what I think is happening religiously is that the end of days is here. We've literally received the prophecies from God that highlight the years that it should happen, 2023, 2024. In 23-24, the very final prophecy to come true came true in the correct time period, which was the Ezekiel Magog war upon Israel. That has started. So undeniably, those things have come true. And undeniably, Israel was reborn 1948. It was, almost 2,000 years prior to that where it didn't exist as a nation because it had been conquered and eradicated. That was a big event. Everybody here today is probably born after that event, so we have this opposite perspective to it. But if you live back in the day, it was like, oh, Israel will be reborn? Ha ha, yeah, right. It's been 2,000 years. That hasn't happened. 1948, it did happen. That was one of the signs that we're in the end of days, and Christ is at the door waiting. Okay, and as I've said before, 75 final years pertains to one of the prophecies. That's from 1948 to 2023, 2024. But that final 75 years, a generation, this final generation, is only equivalent to about 2 hours on God's clock, because a day is like 1,000 years. That means 1 hour is equal to about 41.6 or 41.8 years, something like that, just under 42 years. So 75 years is under the double of that, which means that it's under 2 hours. It's like an hour and something that Jesus is just up there, hypothetically, in whatever sense, at the door waiting. Okay, that's how the time goes to them. On this earth, it feels like a lot longer, but to them, it's going much quicker. Okay, so that's how imminent it is and has been since 1948. UFO presence has only increased since 1948. This mystery drone presence has now started lining up with the Cliff Webbot prediction, which just, it happened to get that prediction right. Doesn't mean that it's going to be right in everything. It's not an actual intelligence that came up with this. It's just algorithms. It just happens to be ironically and uncannily correct so far in certain things pertaining to this. But when you look at the fact that that UFO sightings have increased in general over the last few years, but now with this mystery drone thing and everything, definitely the messengers are coming down to the earth. That's undeniable. There's even also been an increase in spectacular bolides, fireballs, and meteors coming down. Even just in the last week or two, there are quite a few around the world that are caught on videos, and they look spectacular. Made huge bright flashes. It looked like the sun, like lighting up at night. It was just ridiculous. So whether it's rocks coming down or messengers coming down, celestial messengers coming down, the stars have been coming down to the earth. Jesus is at the door because Israel has been reborn since 1948. Okay? And since 1948, connect the dots in your head, triangulate it for yourself. That's when the messengers started showing up. Good and or bad ones started showing up 1948. So that their presence showed up at that time for a reason, because it's the final generation. They're up there watching and monitoring. That's what they do. They're watchers. The bad might have their own other intentions. The good ones are up there to keep certain things in line and to watch and monitor. That's what they do. And if we really were at the biblical end of days, the appointed end of days time, we should expect the final addition to what Jesus said, which is the messengers coming down. And we do see that in 2024, undeniably. We don't see them necessarily coming down from outer space, but they made a presence here on this earth. They made their presence at that event when it started, the mystery drone event, so-called event. But they did come down to this earth at some point in order to participate in that event. But anyways, what was written about has come true. So the only other thing that the Bible said would occur that is left to occur is literally just God appearing on the planet. When the armies of Gog Magog mount up a big attack upon Israel and Jerusalem, that's when God and Messiah will arrive. It'll be very, very sudden. And because of the three warnings that Jesus gave, it'll be like the day of Noah, it'll be like the day of Sodom and Gomorrah when it was destroyed, and that people will be saying peace and surety, and then you have sudden destruction. I think when this attack on Israel occurs, it'll be a surprise attack. Nobody's going to know it's coming. Everybody will be oblivious to it. So it's not like we're going to have some buildup in the news. It's just going to come out of the blue one day. Suddenly, they made a sneak attack on Israel. Nobody will know. It's not like there's going to be a banner saying this is the attack that's going to invoke God's presence. But when that attack occurs, it's going to be a sneak attack, a surprise attack. Everybody will be caught by surprise, and that will be the one, little beknownst to us, that is going to invoke the arrival of the end days and the arrival of God and Messiah like lightning. And like I said, we're not going to have preparation for that. It's just going to happen suddenly out of the blue, and there will be sudden destruction. So if such an event is coming to this planet and all the other, apocalyptic events that are transpiring with it, you would think that the messengers would step up their game and their monitoring and such. They'd be getting stuff ready. And that's what I believe is happening, has been happening for the 75 years of this ET observation of the planet, and is now climaxing now in the end of 2024 with this mystery drone event, which is happening around the world, not just in America. Clearly, they're increasing their presence. They're making their monitoring known. I mean, what we have clearly recorded is these mystery craft observing and watching. That, like, we haven't witnessed them playing sports. Like, they're literally watching us. So, you know what I mean? So when I make my claim that they've increased their monitoring and watching, that's made evident by all the footages of them. That's what they're literally doing. They're increasing their watching, right? So, and why would they be doing this? Why would a technologically superior race be keeping a distance from us, so to speak, all this time, never been hostile to us, kept their distance, watching and observing, and then now all of a sudden, instead they've removed that distance and they're starting to break the ice and initiate proximity and revealing and acknowledging that, hey, yeah, we're watching. There's a reason behind that motive of why they're changed their mode of operation. They know that something big is going to happen. And after all, if they are watchers, they're watching, they'd be privy to such higher information. They might know that, oh yes, It is going to be the cosmic day of judgment. We better start picking up our game. Increase the monitoring. Let the humans know a little more strongly that, yeah, we're real, we're here, we're monitoring. But at the same time, the human response is, the government response and military response is, hey, there's UAPs flying around. We spent all these decades, 70 plus years, maintaining secrecy for certain things. We don't want the beans to be spilled by, something out of our control, out of our hands. So the one way, ingenious way they muddy the waters to help keep the secrecy as best they can for this remaining time period is to, let's send up lots of drones, all different shapes and types. And then when people start seeing them all, they'll get muddled up. And when they're taking their videos, um, you know, you'll have half the people looking at a helicopter in the dark and not knowing it's a helicopter. So, it muddies the waters a lot. It pulls down, like, even though I believe that there are UAPs up there, I know that there's probably half the things flying around right now are human craft monitoring them, right? So that takes like the edge away from the fantastic nature to it. I can find the right words for it. But that's what I mean by muddying the waters. They put out so many human drones, not out of spite. They need to monitor what's going on there, but the resultant side effect of that is the added benefit is that, okay, that's going to muddy the waters. So the media, just doing its job, is reporting lots of drones. Oh, this drone looks like a fixed wing craft. This drone is just a helicopter. This drone is clearly got rotor blades, and it looks like a military drone. They're just reporting the facts. I'm not making some conspiracy theory saying that they're trying to lie to us. If they are lying, it's to keep secrecy for some wise reason. We all have to acknowledge that. But going by as civilians, what we have to see and what we can ascertain, I would say that they muddied the waters in that because the media used this blanket term of drone, that muddied the waters further. And the authorities not giving any answers and this and that there has muddied the waters further. But by doing that muddying of the waters, they help keep that 75, 80 years secrecy efforts still cooking. So right now, people aren't freaking out. I mean, the moment that a politician gets out there where the president says, oh, we can definitively say that extraterrestrials have been monitoring us, they're here now, blah, 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 people would freak out. So they know they can't come out and say that, right? So the way they muddy the waters is like I just said, right? So now every time you turn on any news station, oh, drones in New Jersey, that's the other spin that they do. It's like, focus on the New Jersey aspect. Even though it's happening in lots of other places, focus on the New Jersey. Call it New Jersey mystery drones. By using those buzz terms, they've muddied the waters, and now they're known as the New Jersey drones, whereas they're actually occurring in many other places across America and around the world, and have been for many, many weeks, but they're known as the Jersey drones. That's part of muddying the waters. But by doing that, they've kept the general public not frightened. They're not on high alert that some big event is going to happen. So I would venture to guess that this was done by wise pre-calculation by the authorities to help maintain, a safe, to keep the civilians safe from themselves, and to keep law and order and sanity for a period of time before the aforementioned big event occurs. And the humans don't control the ETs and whoever is controlling these mystery drones. So I would say the ones calling the shots and doing what they want are the ones operating the mystery drones. So I would say if they wanted to increase their visibility even more, which could very well happen, the government wouldn't be able to do anything about it. So I think the government is doing all that they can, given the current scenario, in muddying the waters, as I described. And that will have to change when the ETs increase their presence even more, or start doing something more spectacular. Maybe they'll just do an arrival and a landing somewhere, or maybe they're going to start appearing everywhere, or start showing off more sophisticated craft, things like that there. And at that point there, the governments will just have to come out and start admitting things to the people. So I also think in turn that if the Webbot predicted this, that the government probably has better versions of Webbots, and maybe from their own insider knowledge and their own research and studies, and not just web bots, obviously. The government probably, I mean, if some big event is going to happen in 2024's end or 2025, soon, whenever, um, it's plausible that humans could learn about it, especially if from the ET races themselves. They might be able to foresee that this would occur, and whether with direct knowledge from the ETs themselves or just from gleaning information from downcraft or interviews with random downed ET craft occupants, you know what I mean? Either gleaning information or a direct exchange of information. Humans have somehow, the governments have somehow, I'm just hypothesizing, um, that they've gleaned this information that in the certain year some big event would transpire, which would involve, a cosmic battle over the Earth, great chaos, and we don't know the spin that the ETs are giving the government people. The ETs could be good or bad ETs. They could be giving them an accurate representation of what will occur, or they could be giving them a glossed over representation, and misrepresenting what will occur. So we can only speculate on which group of ETs, good or bad, would have been able to give such information to the government. But we can only fairly assume that the government has gleaned some information about this big event that's upcoming, and they probably didn't know that the ET would deploy all these drone craft, based on the nature of the government response to this. So I think that was unforeseen. So which makes me think that the government doesn't know the whole scenario. And I think what the government probably has gleaned is not a total representation of what will occur, which would be best understood in the religious perspective. So if you're looking at what will happen in a non-religious perspective, it'll just look like aliens are going to battle over the planet, and some people are going to be taken off the earth and taken away to another world. Well, from a religious perspective, that's the rapture at the end of days, the worthy get taken away to the new earth. Maybe they return here afterwards or whatever, who knows. But that's what's going to happen. But from the human non-religious perspective, if you were to witness that event or learn about it or be taught about it through ET knowledge, looking at it with a non-religious lens, you're going to look at it as just like some natural event, like colonization or a battle, just like happens in human history. You're not going to have the religious edge to it, even if you get told that these good beings will come and take away some people off the planet. If you're looking at it with a non-religious lens, you're not going to see that that is what the rapture is. So when this event occurs, I think that's what it's actually going to be. It's going to be the biblical end of days. And I think that from the government's perspective, they're not looking at it from a religious perspective. They're probably not allowed to, for their jobs, be religiously swayed into a bias like that. So they have to look at everything non-religiously and neutrally. But I think because of doing that, they've seen it with this enlightened lens, and they're not looking at it for what it actually is. Like the intangible things, like if a group of people gets taken off the planet to a better place, you physically witness it or learn about it. That's one thing. You don't see the intangible side to it. If you're with those people, you would have known they got taken up by the good angels. They got to go meet God and Jesus and entered the mansions prepared for them in the gardens of paradise. But witnessing them leaving the earth, you wouldn't know any of those insider details, that more intimate knowledge that you'd only get from participation. So I think that's the reason for the government secrecy. I think it's everything I just said, not to repeat myself. And I think I've said all I need to, and now I'm at an hour, so I will shut up. But anyways, and thank you for your testimony about seeing that the other day as well. That's great. You're like the third or fourth subscriber now who said they've seen these mystery things as well. But I've got to get going, so take care, folks, and God bless, and see you all later.